Once you start embracing your authentic self, no matter what the situation is, and being like, I accept myself and, other people can accept me or not, and I can still be content in who I am and still be secure in who I am, that's going to take you so far. That's a huge part of building confidence. Welcome to another episode of the Psychology and Manifestation podcast with your host, Sudane Firestar. I am so happy you are here. And this is episode 20 of the podcast. It's a celebration. I am so grateful to be rocking out with you. Thank you for following the podcast. Thank you for being a listener and a supporter. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you are not yet following or subscribed to the podcast, you can follow and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, or any other platform where you enjoy listening to and watching podcasts. So thank you for your support. Every time that you share the podcast with someone else, it allows me to reach more people who need to hear these valuable messages and lessons. Okay, so if you didn't know, I'm an Aquarius and my birthday is in less than 2 weeks. And so I think that this is a perfect time to talk about what I've learned as an almost 41-year-old about how to build confidence. So let's get into it. So when it comes to building confidence, confidence comes from self-trust. So this is the process, right? Self-trust means that you don't doubt yourself. You know that you can depend on you. And a lot of building that self-trust comes from doing the very thing that you are afraid to do, or the very thing that makes you feel a bit insecure. That's something that I've had to learn throughout the course of my life, that the way that I grow and the way that I become stronger in these various parts of life is to just dive in, take the risk, put myself out there and see what happens, see how it goes. And there are certain areas where I have a choice, right? Either I can dip my toe in or dip my toe out, but then there are certain situations in which I don't really have the choice to be just dipping in and out. Like I have to dip in and commit for a while. And so being in those certain situations has allowed me to grow tremendously, because I didn't really have that chance to kind of like disappear or like shrink or get small. Sure, I could have done that, but there would have been some significant consequences to doing that. So, one of the key examples of this is in my work as a school psychologist, which I've shared a bit about on the podcast before. But when I first became a school psychologist, it was pretty volatile. It was pretty tough. Like, I felt like I was thrown into the deep end, and it was like, you need to either sink or swim. I've been working in the school system and I've worked in different types of settings, so numerous schools at this point. But the thing is that in the schools where I was typically the only school psychologist, the only one working for those particular schools. And so it wasn't like I could just pass the buck if I didn't like a situation or it felt difficult to work with a particular student or particular family. It wasn't like I could be like, well, I'll just let someone else do it, or I don't really feel like doing it. I just had to, even if I felt like destroyed on certain days, I could fall, I could cry, but I had to be resilient and pick myself up the next day and do it all over again. And then also be able to lead with an open mind and forgiveness, not hold a grudge. So even if I felt like I wasn't treated with kindness and respect, whether that was from a student or a parent or someone else in that particular setting, I just had to get over it. So, I didn't really have space to wallow or sit in it. I had to, deal with conflict, even though I used to be really conflict averse, because it would be nerve wracking. I'd be scared. Like I would freeze. Like, how do I respond in this particular situation? But it's about practice and building trust in yourself that you can handle anything, that you can survive anything. I came to realize that I could handle anything and I could survive anything, and that I would get through to the other side no matter what the situation was. So I could figure out strategies that worked in different situations, or that worked over and over and over again. So anytime I was met with this particular scenario where it wasn't so easy and it was tough, I got through it. And so now when I'm faced with certain types of difficult situations or difficult personalities or people who are skeptical or people who are angry, or when it comes to kids, they just don't want to do it. And, in certain circumstances, like who could blame them? I completely understand their point of view. But I learned not to take the things personally and learn to see things from their perspective. And I learned that I could believe in myself, that I could trust in myself, and that I had what it took to withstand anything. But again, if I had had the chance to just give up, if I had had the chance to pass a buck and give it to someone else, and I didn't practice, I wouldn't have built that confidence in my expertise and my knowledge and my ability to do the work and to do the work well. And I'm going to talk to you more in a little bit about what I mean by the expertise component. Before I get to that, I also wanted to share with you that I used to have a fear of public speaking. And here I am publishing a podcast that can be listened to by anyone, anywhere in the world at any time. Even though I'm not necessarily speaking directly in front of an audience right now, and I'm just with my mic and the camera, I still am putting my voice out there for anyone to hear, for anyone to judge. But I've gotten over my fear of public speaking, and that's why I'm able to do this. But that came through, again, through the school psychology work, having to lead certain types of meetings. So I had to get comfortable speaking in front of groups, whether that was in person or remotely. And then I also taught as an adjunct professor. I had to get comfortable speaking in front of groups, and that started with being comfortable too in graduate school. It was kind of like a smaller setting, and I would be like one of the first students to raise my hand because I had done the work and I felt confident in my knowledge and understanding of the material. I'd be like, ooh, like I got it. I'm ready to answer this question. But I started in grad school, like practicing raising my hand, practicing, being prepared and being comfortable. And then also, I became very comfortable with creating presentations and presenting in front of small groups in grad school. And then again, then I went out into the world as a school psychologist. And then I built up to being an adjunct professor. And now I'm here in front of you speaking on the mic. But it comes from practice, and that's how you build up your strength and your courage in the area in which you feel a little shaky. So you also build confidence through preparation. So that means that if you need certain notes, that you're preparing your notes beforehand, you're preparing an agenda, an outline. So for this podcast, for example, I usually start with an outline. So it's not necessarily a script. I'm not reading from a script when I talk to you. I'm kind of a little bit more off the cuff in that sense, but I still have an outline so I know exactly which points I want to hit. And that gives me confidence, and that makes me feel more secure and more prepared. And the same for when I'm leading an IEP meeting as a school psychologist, an individualized education program meeting for students who are being recommended for special education services. I have to have, either I have to know the reports well that I'm going to be using, as a form of data to support my recommendations. And then I create an agenda with the key points that I need to include so that I feel very prepared during that meeting to hit all of the important points and to make sure that anyone who needs to comment or share their perspective has the space to do that. But that makes me feel really confident and secure. Another example of this is when I first started evaluating students and doing psychoeducational assessment. So if you're not familiar with that, that is giving students like, a traditional IQ test, as well as an achievement test most times. But basically, whenever I had to do a testing appointment, there were things that I would do to prepare. Like I would practice using the tests in advance, practicing the scripts because it has to be standardized and I have to say it a certain way. I would, highlight certain key points that I needed to make sure I read on the paperwork. So I really value preparation. And then, like, once you become more confident and secure and you know the key points that you need to hit, you can use fewer and fewer notes, right? You don't need as many notes, you don't need to highlight as much, and less preparation is necessary because it becomes like muscle memory. You're so used to doing the same thing over and over again that, again, you've built that self-trust. And then you can be more off the cuff. Then you can be more spontaneous. But at first, being prepared Maybe you practice in the mirror, right? For example, a presentation. Maybe you practice with a friend or a family member or a colleague before you give a presentation. But basically, you just do whatever it takes to feel more confident and like you know exactly what it is you're talking about. Another key to building your confidence is to be yourself. Be authentic, be who you truly are. Like, do away with the people pleasing, do away with the I need to be this certain person to fulfill the expectations of other people. Because, first of all, that is super tiring. Pretending to be someone you're not is so hard. And also, it can create a lot of awkwardness, and people can pick up on that, right? They can pick up on the fact that you don't quite feel right or secure in who you are. So when you are confident and you're like, it is what it is, this is who I am, take it or leave it, then you're going to come across as more confident. Something that reminds me of this is the fact that I used to consider myself to be kind of quirky, dorky, awkward. Those are words that I would use to describe myself in my mind. I don't know that I necessarily out loud said to people, hey, guess what? I'm a dork, or, I'm awkward. No, but when I would think of myself, these are some of the labels or the adjectives that I used to describe how I saw myself. And this is especially true because I have an older brother and he was just always the cool person. He was always the cool kid, someone I looked up to when it came to swag. And I just never felt like I had that same swag. So, especially in comparison to my older brother, it was like, I feel like a freaking nerd. I feel so dorky, right? And like I just don't know how to be secure in myself, or I'm shy. But interestingly enough, I realized after a while, like once I started to just be more myself, to speak my mind more, and to feel more confident in certain areas of my life where I felt like I had more knowledge and expertise. Interestingly enough, after that, when I thought about the adjectives that I would use to describe myself, dorky, quirky, awkward just weren't part of my vocabulary anymore. Those were not words that I felt adequately described who I am. At this point, I don't think that way of myself. It's funny too because like maybe about a week ago, I was speaking to my uncle and I said to him, like, when anyone wants to know who I truly am at my core, my beliefs, my character, my vibe, listen to the podcast, watch the podcast, because here, this is who I am. This is my personality. I'm more of an introvert. So it's not like I'm going to walk outside and be like this all the time and like, wow, wow, like I'm not the life of the party all the time. But if you want to get a sense of who I am and who my authentic self is, you're getting it right here, baby. So, confidence is a presence. And that means that you exude confidence when you're super calm and you're comfortable in your own skin. That's when people look at you and they're like, wow, like she just looks so relaxed. Like she looks like she's in her element. She looks so self assured, right? So it really helps to look for the strategies that are going to help you to feel calm and secure and comfortable in your own skin. There are plenty of things that you can do to calm your nervous system, whether that's deep breathing, right? Visualizing yourself being successful at doing the very thing that you're afraid to do. Emotional freedom technique, EFT tapping, positive affirmations, meditation, yoga, like the list of things that you can do to feel more comfortable and confident in your own skin. Like the list is endless. It's limitless. There are so many things that you can tap into that are going to help you to feel like you can stand up straight, have great posture, pull your shoulders back, and be like, yes, I've got this. Something else that I've learned as an almost 41-year-old is that you're not necessarily going to be confident in every single area of your life. And the truth is that other people are not confident in every single area of their life either. Maybe one person feels really confident in their voice and how they speak in front of people, right? Another person feels really confident in their style, right? feel like my fashion is amazing, right? They might feel like I'm just like amazing with clothing and style and I'm so chic, right? Another person may be confident in their knowledge, like they're a brainiac, they're super smart, right? They've always done well in school and that's their thing. There may be topics in which one person feels super confident and the other person doesn't because another person has taken incredible amounts of time studying that content and that topic like over and over and over again, like building their skills, building their knowledge over, weeks, months, years. And obviously, one person is going to feel more confident than the other when it comes to certain topics. So, this became very clear to me when I was in college because I had so many insecurities in college, honestly, because I think I was suffering from stereotype threat and, being a Black woman and just being like, wow, I'm surrounded by a lot of people who don't look like me. I'm in a predominantly white school, and I had been in predominantly white schools for a while by then, especially when I was in high school. Like, that was super intense. And then I went to college, and it wasn't quite the same, wasn't quite as bad, honestly, but still another predominantly white environment. And so I kind of had in my head that because I'm Black, that means that I have to work so much harder than other people, right? Than the white students. I just have to do so much better because people tend to think that Black people are intellectually inferior. So we've come a long way, but still, there are still some people who have that super ridiculous, effed up mindset where they think that that's true, right? They think that certain ridiculous things that they see in the media are true about people from different ethnic and racial background. And back then, I just was so worried about being perceived in this negative light and being able to live up to expectations like, can I do this? And I had this idea in my mind that all the other students around me, even other students of color, I was just like, wow, because they would speak so confidently about certain subjects. I would just think, oh man, I'm not as smart as them. Like, I'm probably not getting grades that are as good as theirs. Like, I just don't know as much. And so, when I had certain roommates who they were and roommates and good friends who were studying political science and international affairs or international relations, they would get into these really heated debates on topics that I just really felt like I couldn't hang with because I was more into psychology and that wasn't the area that they would be really debating about or talking about. But I didn't put two and two together back then. I didn't realize that, right? So they would just be so fast, so quick, had so much information and so much knowledge about these topics. And I would just be sitting there with nothing to say. Like, we all at some point were roommates, and I would just be like, well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to sound stupid, right? I don't want to sound dumb. Like, I don't know this. And it was interesting because some of us, some of my friends in college, we wound up in the same psychology class together. And I think that they were just taking it like just to check off their prerequisites. And I remember them just not really feeling the same enthusiasm for the course or like it was as easy. And I'm just like, oh, this is so easy for me. Like, I love this. This is amazing. Right. And I just loved everything psychology. And I remember my friends just didn't like it that much and it wasn't their thing. And I just felt like, oh, like this material is just so easy for everyone. And then I realized, well, that's not true. Like some things are easy for some people and some things are easy for other people, depending on, how much experience they have with the topic, how comfortable they feel with it, and how interested they are in the first place when it comes to a particular topic. So that was like the first clue that maybe I was missing something, right? And I didn't quite understand that sometimes people are confident in what they're speaking about and that's the reason why they come across as being more secure, right? Because they're secure and confident when they're talking about that specific subject. So, a tip for you is that you can capitalize on the areas in where you feel the strongest. So, if you're having a conversation or you want to start a conversation, you can kind of, be the leader and the initiator of that conversation, bringing up subjects that you feel you can hang with, right? That you know a bit more about and that you feel like you'll be able to contribute and add a lot of value to that conversation using, right? So, That is a huge tip. And also, if you don't know something, not to take it personally, not to feel like that makes you less than someone else, and to realize that might be a subject that they're really passionate about. And so they've studied it a ton and they're really tapped in and tuned into that subject because they care a lot about it, or because that's your area of expertise. So just understand that in those moments it's okay not to know everything, right? You don't have to know everything. And in those moments when you feel like, maybe I don't have as much value to add to this conversation, you can add value in other ways, not necessarily putting forth comments, but you can ask questions. You can take it as an opportunity to listen and learn a bit about something. And you can ask open ended questions. So that can be your contribution to the conversation, because people love talking, right? And they especially love talking about themselves and their knowledge and how much they know. So that's how you can get out of feeling awkward or uncomfortable in conversations where you're like, I don't really know that much about it or about this topic. And it's also okay to kind of admit that you don't know some things, right? And that doesn't make you less than someone else. It's okay to not have to pretend that you know everything, or not. It's okay to not have to like shrink yourself because you don't feel like you quite fit in. That isn't necessary. You don't have to dim your light, because you have value too. You have strengths too. You have intelligence too. And there will be moments where you get to shine too. Okay, so that's what I have for you today, my darling. Let's get into the key takeaways. Let's do a summary, a recap. And also, I always come with the homework. So stay tuned for the homework. So, in this conversation, I've been speaking to you about how to build confidence, especially as someone who's almost been on this planet for 41 years. Yes, millennials. Yes. So, how do you build confidence? You build confidence through building self trust, being able to depend on yourself and know that you have what it takes to get through anything. And the way that you build self trust is through practice. And so that means that you are doing the damn thing, you are doing the very thing that you are scared to do. Because the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to feel, the more it becomes like muscle memory and like, I've got this. And before it feels like muscle memory, it's important to prepare. You prepare, and when you prepare, you feel more confident because you know exactly what it is that you want to share, or just it could be for anything, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're always prepared for a presentation. But maybe you're going to sing a song, so you've practiced singing this song. Maybe you're about to play the piano, so you've practiced playing the piano. Maybe you're playing a sport, right? So you've practiced playing that sport. It could be whatever it is that you're branching out into, or it could even be like you're about to have a difficult conversation and you've practiced having that difficult conversation. So it doesn't always have to be about presenting. You can apply this information that I'm sharing with you to a variety of scenarios in your life. It can also be about, I don't know, if you're going out and you're dating, you're going out on dates, right? Or you're preparing for a job interview. I think you can prepare for dates, right? Making sure that you know exactly what it is you want to wear, right? Exactly what you want the vibe to be. Maybe you're, doing a practice date with someone in your life who's available to just do a chit chat, right? So you can just get comfortable. I mean, I've never tried that, but who says that you can? Why not? Why not do practice dating? And it's possible to be confident in some areas and not others. Oftentimes there are certain areas in which people feel more confident for whatever reason. Maybe they were always affirmed in that area of their life, so that's why they feel super confident in that area. Like, their family members, their friends, their teachers, or other loved ones were like, yeah, like you're so great at that. And so they always felt confident because someone was always reflecting back to them that they were amazing at that. So that might be the case for you, or you feel more confident in a specific area because you always got positive feedback. That might be like, for example, with looks. Someone might feel more confident in the way that they look because they always got positive feedback. And someone else might not feel confident because they didn't get that feedback, right? But it doesn't mean that that person cannot be confident in their looks. It takes practice, and it takes like cognitive reframing and changing their own mind so that they can go out into the world and present like, yes, I'm a confident person, and attract other people who see them the same way. And so that can be you being confident in the areas in which you were affirmed more, or just confident in the areas in which you just have more knowledge or skills, because that happens too, right? Like wherever you've been studying something for a number of years, so you've built your skills and your knowledge, you're going to feel more confident there. So capitalize on your strengths when it comes to that, right? And when you feel like you can be at your best and you have value to share, like jump into the conversation, be the first to be like, yes, I want to do that presentation because I know this and I know this well. Right? There are ways to capitalize on your strengths. And in the areas in which you feel a little bit uncertain or like a bit weaker, again, you can practice to build your skills and knowledge there if that's something that's truly important to you. But then on the other hand, you can be someone who contributes by learning more, listening, asking questions, open-ended questions. You can add value to the conversation in that way, because you can also build connections in that way, right? Because people love to be heard. And as I said before, it's okay to not know everything. An example of that is when I was an adjunct professor. So I had learned over time through giving other types of presentations that you don't have to know everything on the spot. You can always get back to people later, or even if I'm in an IEP meeting and a parent asks a question and I don't know the answer right away, you don't need to freeze or get nervous or like worry, oh my gosh, I'm going to look ridiculous because I don't know the answer and they're going to think I'm dumb and I don't have knowledge. You could just be like, you could say, oh, that's a good question. I need to get more information about that. So you can, if it's like you're teaching something, you can be like, okay, like, why don't you send me that question via email and I'll respond to you as soon as I have the answer. Or it could be the same thing with a parent, like, in a meeting that I've been in. Oh, I don't quite know the answer, but I'm taking notes and I'll make sure to respond to you. I can either give you a call, or I'll send you an email to let you know once I have the answer. And it could be the same thing in any kind of presentation, and it can allow you to keep in touch with people, right? But it's okay to not know every single thing on the spot. You can be like, I'll get back to you, right? Or that's a good question. I'm not sure, but I'll find out. And be authentic. Be yourself. Because when you're trying to be someone you're not, it comes across as so awkward. It's uncomfortable for you. Other people can sense that you feel uneasy, right? So once you start embracing your authentic self, no matter what the situation is, and being like, I accept myself, and other people can accept me or not, and I can still be content in who I am and still be secure in who I am, that's going to take you so far. That's a huge part of building confidence, is just accepting yourself. Confidence is a presence. When you feel calm, that is going to help you to exude that relaxation, that ease, that I am so amazing. I am the whole damn vibe. I'm so cool. You're going to feel more confident and secure when you are calm. So, whatever it takes, use all the strategies I mentioned earlier. So, that's yoga, meditation, EFT, tapping, positive affirmations, etc., etc. Okay, all of those different types of strategies and more can help you to feel calm. They can calm your nervous system, help you to feel more at ease in your body. And identify sources of inspiration. So, what I mean by that is sources that you can turn to whenever that self-doubt is creeping in. So, as I mentioned before, people are not confident everywhere in all areas of their life. And the same applies to me. I'm not confident in every single area of my life. There are areas in which I feel super confident, like I got this. And then there are other areas where I'm still working on myself, because these are areas that I believe are, once I really master them, are going to help me to get to my next level, right? But I oftentimes have to tap into sources of inspiration, people who help me to get over the self-doubt, right? And to go back to believing in myself. And so one of my favorite sources for inspiration and affirmations and for overcoming the self-doubt over and over and over again is Amanda Frances. She has many paid and free offers available. So if you're interested, and I'm not an affiliate, this is not sponsored in any way, I just really love her work. you can go to her website. I think if you scroll all the way to the bottom of her website, she has a meditation series. And in there, she has some guided meditations that have a lot of affirmations in them that you recite that really build up your confidence. Someone else who has a lot of really valuable, amazing free resources online is Brad Yates. So Brad has a YouTube channel called Tap with Brad, where he does emotional freedom technique, and it's also called tapping. All of his tapping videos include positive affirmations, and the positive affirmations touch on various topics. So whatever you're feeling that day or whatever insecurity, you can always go to his YouTube channel, choose the video that applies to your particular situation, and it's going to help you feel so much better. I've done that time and time again, and I leave his videos feeling brand new. You can also go to episode 13 of my podcast, the Psychology and Manifestation Podcast. I talk about developing a positive mindset and cognitive reframing and how to change your mind. All right. And so you can go back to that episode. I also have an episode about the follow-up episode, which I believe is episode number 14, in which I talk about developing a positive affirmations that are more like personalized and specific to you. Okay, so go check out episode 13 and 14 of the Psychology and Manifestation Podcast if you want more sources of inspiration. So when it comes to homework, I would recommend journaling. I've spoken about journaling numerous times. And also, speaking about Amanda Francis, she has wonderful journaling prompts. But one of the things that I've learned from her is about writing down all the things that you're concerned about, and writing about all your limiting beliefs and the things that you're worried about, and then choosing to see things differently. You say like God's, goddesses, well, I say goddesses, God's, goddesses, angels, universe, spirit guides, whoever you want to speak to. Please help me to see things differently. I'm willing to see things differently. And then you come up with a newer, truer version, something that makes you feel better. To counter all of those negative things that you wrote down on the page, you want to find something that feels better than those words, like almost the opposite of what you put down there. So you're looking for something that could be more real for you, more affirming, more loving rather than fear-based. So I recommend that you do those journaling techniques for those areas in which you're lacking confidence. Again, check out the sources of inspiration. Either you have your own that you return to over and over again in those moments when you need to go back to believing in yourself, or you can tap into Amanda Francis's offers or Brad Yates. Okay, because they're awesome resources to help you go back to believing in yourself. And then finally, my last piece of advice to you is to just do the damn thing. Whatever it is that you're afraid to do, just pick a time, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, put it on your calendar and schedule a time when you're just going to do it. And just make sure that you schedule out the time in advance to prepare for it so that you can feel more and more secure. But whatever you have been avoiding, whatever you have been shying away from, now is the time for you to put yourself out there, because that is the only way you are going to build confidence in that area. And with that in mind, I am developing my first digital course, and it is going to center around building your confidence to launch your podcast. A lot of it is about tackling your limiting beliefs. And then there's also, the practical elements that are going to help you step by step to launch your podcast. But we also talk about positive mindset and changing your mind so that you can overcome whatever barriers there are to putting your podcast out there and making it real, making it come alive. So I'm going to post a question on Spotify. I'm also going to post that question in the comments on YouTube. And I would love you to reply to that question if you are on your path, or you've been in the research phase or the daydreaming phase. Like, oh my goodness, I would love to have a podcast, but you still haven't done it yet. Like, you've been a little nervous, a little scared to do it. I want you to reply to the comment and let me know what it is that you've been thinking about. Or maybe you are not, as nervous about it yet, but you still are in the dreaming and the thinking about it phase, I would still love to know what you would want to see in this course. And like I said, you can leave a comment on Spotify or you can leave a comment on YouTube because I want to know exactly what it is you desire to see included. So I am just totally delivering all the yumminess, all the goodies, okay? All right. So that is what I have for you today, my love. And until next time, I love you. Bye.